have been very blessed to have a number of allies.
Their priorities are not children's education. Their priorities are not the children. They say one thing and they do another. That's saying that you don't care about the kids, but you're on TV and saying, I care about kids. No, you don't.
This is a fight for everybody who believes in public schools and the challenges that they face.
Working in CPS is often a thankless job, and you need to hear that you're appreciated. Like many of you, I decided to become a teacher because I wanted to help children reach their full potential, to teach them the skills they needed to become problem solvers and critical thinkers.
We care about the parents. We care about every working person in the city of Chicago and abroad.
My name's Michelle Gunderson. I'm a first grade teacher at Nuttahorse School, and I've given over 2 decades of my life to our city's students. I love teaching children from our city. I love the diversity. I love the challenges. I enjoy every day that I walk into my school building. But why that happens is because we have such a strong, unified building and a strong union in my building where we all work with each other in solidarity and work for our school communities. And I think what we saw in our last strike is that teachers were willing to go out on strike and fight for what our kids deserve. It wasn't all about the money. But now that I've been teaching for more than 2 decades, I'm ready to retire.
We have here in this rally today and around the community of Chicago, teachers and PSRPs and clinicians who gave their careers, the best working lives of the best years of their working lives to educating children. Those people are now retired. And after caring for us for generations, we now have to care for them. And while we will not sacrifice our schools, neither will we sacrifice our retirees. Neither will we allow our pensions to be cut, our livelihoods to be slashed, and people who are at the end of their lives to be thrown in a scrap heap so that the wealthiest of this society don't have to pay their taxes.
It's important for teachers to have pensions because we do not pay into Social Security and we don't receive Social Security. Our pension will be our livelihood in our old age. And because pensions in the past have been so reliable in the state of Illinois, many teachers have come to trust that that money would be there at the end of their careers. So unlike other workers who might have put away money in a 401k or other type of plan, most of the time teachers put some money away in their own contributions, but they are trusting and understanding that the bulk of their income in their retirement would be coming from the pension. Well, the Chicago Public Schools has taken a pension holiday, and they have not fulfilled their end of the commitment to our pensions for decades now. And what we end up with is a shortfall. This is at no way the fault of the worker who entered into this agreement. And we need to find the political will to fulfill this promise to workers.
It's been a long school year. And it's going to keep going for a couple more weeks. And unfortunately, out there in the schools right now, our principals and our teachers do not yet have a school budget. How can you run a school without knowing what your budget is? How is it that teachers are asked to make decisions about what they're doing next year, when in the suburbs, they've already known what they're doing next year for 2 months? It's not acceptable to run a school system this way. It's not acceptable to treat students this way. And it is not acceptable to treat us this way.
We just can't have a world-class school system without the resources. And we definitely don't want to have school class sizes that are too big for us to take care of. I teach first grade. I have 25 children in my class, and each of those children requires so much attention to become great readers. And we know that it's just paramount in the early grades that we have small enough class sizes to be able to teach in a way that makes sense to our youngest children. So I'm here for 7 reasons. to make sure that the pensions are honored and that we find revenue for pensions, to make sure that we find revenue to keep our class sizes at a reasonable amount. I'm sure there are people who teach in suburban districts or other school systems who would consider 25 children in a first grade classroom absolutely ridiculous. But we need to have schools that are on par with other systems in Chicago in order for us to have schools that attract people into our neighborhoods and people to stay in our city.
My name is Gloria Warner. I'm the president of Action Now. I'm also a retired school teacher. And we need a sustainable community school. Not just one community, but all the community. And in order to do this, we need a fair budget to be passed. We need a librarian in every school. We need books. We need money. We need the money back that LaSalle Street took. The children of Chicago deserve better. And the mayor and the governor know that they can do better, and it's time for them to do something.
Listen, transit has been quiet for a long time. But thanks to the organizing of the teachers, we're out here in support of you, because guess what? This is about working families. Public transit and public schools. Taking it to the streets. So just let you all know, this is just the first of many. We're there when you need us. We need the powers to be to realize that public schools are a necessity. Not to be moved around, not to be closed, and the teachers aren't to be disrespected.
I'm here with the Kenwood Oakland Community Organization, and we want to say that we stand in firm solidarity with the Chicago Teachers Union. Any union, any brothers and sisters in labor that will make as part of their contract demands an end to charter school expansion, any union that will make as part of their contract demands 50 sustainable community schools in the city of Chicago, a restorative justice coordinator in every school, early childhood education for every child, along with smaller class sizes. We're with you. But I want to share something with you. While the mayor of this city promised you all on television over and over that he was going to start to listen, y'all remember that? He said, I hear you. Well, we're going to make sure that he hears us, right? Because I don't want to live in a Chicago where the mayor of this city can send his children to a school where they say there cannot be more than 23 children in one class, where they say that standardized tests is not our main option for evaluating students, but then tell you that that your children don't deserve the same thing. I don't want to live in a Chicago where families are destabilized and communities are turned upside down, and when thousands of people hit the streets, the mayor of this city says there's noise associated with change. So today, brothers and sisters, can we commit? No, can we commit that this is not just about what's going to happen over the next 6 months? This is about us coming together in communities around the city of Chicago saying we want a different type of Chicago. We want a Chicago that embraces our children, not criminalizes our children. We want a Chicago that builds the middle class, not kills the middle class. We want a Chicago where our voices are heard and not ignored.
I'm a rank and file member of the bargaining committee. I'm a vice president for elementary schools for the Chicago Teachers Union, but that is a job where I am still in the classroom. The one item that I brought to the table was a reduction of paperwork. We are just drowning in paperwork, and it's paperwork that takes us away from our duties with children and from the real teaching of a classroom. Imagine that if we reduced our paperwork for teachers, how much money they would save in the amount of supervision that paperwork takes. Also, I always make the point that no urban school district in our country has ever improved through increased paperwork. And it sounds like a ludicrous thing to say, but if other workers would understand how much we are being asked that is not directly affecting our teaching and our children, they would understand that this is not a ridiculous item to be bargaining over. Another part that would not cost the Chicago schools any money, that they have not moved on at all, is that we would like for money allocated for Teach for America, a program that has interns fresh out of college take a 5-week course and then placed directly in the classroom. We would like that program's money transferred over to something called Grow Your Own, where we encourage people from our neighborhoods to major in education in a 4-year degree or a master's degree in education and come into our schools. We were told absolutely not on this point, and that's discouraging because what we've also seen is a whitening of our labor force, and we would look to see a lot more diversity in our teaching corps. So those are two of the points that I've been making at the negotiating table that would cost us no money, but there's been absolutely no movement on. And when we look at what we're asking for, in my mind, every single point is reasonable, and that we are asking for things that improve teaching and learning for children. To come back with a 7% pay cut is an unreasonable direction for the Chicago Public Schools to take in asking our teachers, who already are holding this system together with everything they've got, to be disrespected to the point that they're asking us for a pay cut.
Let's talk about what's really happening. We have people who are trying to set the working class at odds with poor people. That's what we have set up for us right now. Working class people don't want to pay any more property taxes. They don't want to pay any more taxes. That makes sense. We understand that. Poor people are trying to get help. We understand that. But we have a governor who thought it was okay to cut funding to autism on World Autism Day. So clearly priorities aren't shifted in the right direction. So here's what I'm asking you. Who are the one set of people that could solve this problem by doing one thing? Paying their fair share.
We had a lot of gains on our strike. I think the most, though, was ephemeral. It was that we gained our respect back as educators in our city. And I think that what we are going to see in this next contract campaign is that the lies that were being told about teachers then, that we were greedy and that we were only out for ourselves, I think Chicago teachers have proven time and time again that that is untrue, that we are willing to fight to the bitter end for schools that make sense for our children, and especially in terms of justice, in terms of educational parity. This is what our teachers went on strike for. But when we look at that contract, there were some gains. One of the gains is to make sure that we have committees in schools, professional learning committees, and also problem-solving committees that are union positions, not positions that are appointed by a principal. It makes sense for our faculties to have strong unity and solidarity in solving problems themselves. I don't think we see that the Chicago public school system solves problems well for our children, and we need to have the power and the control in the hands of teachers.
Do you realize that developers figure out their budgets by how much TIF money, before they even present, they have figured out how much TIF money they're going to get. So we aren't asking the right people the right questions. There's a person that lives in this town who could solve all of the pension fund crisis, not by reaching into his checkbook and taking food out of his children's mouths, but just by paying his fair share of taxes. So people keep saying, why do you always talk about taxing the rich? Because when America was at its strongest, number one, 37% union density. What do we have now? Who knows? I think it's 7%. And what is this governor trying to do? Get rid of unions. When Americans, my best friend just lost her father over the weekend. He had a high school diploma and he was able to go to work at Reynolds aluminum plant. That man was able to put his 3 daughters through school, whoever else wanted to go. He was able to buy a house and have a family. Try that with a high school diploma now, because those jobs are gone. And again, in the 50s, when we had the most prosperity, when we had a middle class, what are these people trying to do? They keep saying they want to go back in time to when minorities were quiet and women stayed at home, and right? They want to go back to that time, but they don't want to go back to the time where the unions were the most dense. They just want to pick and choose. But that's not how it is. So you have to remember that what you're fighting for is not just a fair contract. It is the history of fair contracts. And if we have a chance, this is it. This is the time where you have to stand up and tell them all, no, we're not going to take that. This is what is more reasonable.
The Chicago Teachers Union put a lot of time and energy into the recent elections in Chicago for good reason. When we were looking at negotiating our contract, when we were looking at the state of our schools, we were seeing that the only way that we were going to be able to make large enough change for the children and communities in our city was through the electoral process.
I am here today to stand in solidarity with the dedicated educators and support staff in Chicago Public Schools. Today, I stand before you as the 10th Ward Alderman and former CTU Area Vice President. But today, I speak to you as a mother of 4 children that went to school at Chicago Public Schools. Quality education is a cornerstone of our democracy. Any attack on public education is a threat to our democracy. We must protect public education and ensure that working families have an accountable, transparent, and quality public education system. We cannot stand by idle as career politicians continue to make poor decisions affecting our society's most precious resource, our children. It is disgraceful. It's disgraceful to watch elected officials bail out big banks that are considered too big to fail. And the same politicians use taxpayers' money to bail out investment firms. We must consider our public education system too valuable to fail. I am committed to work with all elected officials and interested parties to explore all possible solutions to the issues that we face. As a city, we must continue to educate and organize for a fair treatment and compensation of our educators.
We had hoped that Karen Lewis would be able to run for mayor, and there was an incredible disheartening when our leader became ill and could not move forward. But we vetted a champion for our schools and for children in Chuy Garcia. We did remarkable work. He gained more than 40% of the vote against an incumbent mayor, someone who outspent us 30-1. And I believe that it was also an organizing tool. It made us stronger. It made us as teachers more politically aware. Teachers as a working class are not the most political people, yet in our work, we do the most political job. We teach people how to read and how to make opinions and how to think for themselves. So activating our membership on a political basis was very important for us moving forward.
I am here with you today because I recognize that we cannot have a robust and sustainable system of public education in Illinois or in Chicago if there isn't sustainable funding to make that a reality. And I'm here today because I understand clearly that unless we have a system of solid neighborhood schools everywhere in the city of Chicago, we cannot have safe neighborhoods in the city of Chicago. So as we enter this next cycle of the crisis around public education and everything that is public in terms of public institutions in Illinois and in Chicago, it is more critical now than ever before that we find the revenue solutions to the crisis that we're facing in public education, in health and human services, in how we treat the most vulnerable populations of our state and in the city of Chicago. And in order to reach a reasonable and sustainable accord as it relates to public education, it is critical that the voices of teachers and parents and students be heard and be at the negotiating table. So I understand the discontent and the rage that you've expressed when the Chicago Public Schools tried to impose a salary cut on the hard-earned benefits that teachers have enjoyed thus far. And in order for us to move forward as one and to achieve a system that guarantees education and quality education for all, teachers' voices must be at the table, there must be equitable bargaining, and we've got to put all of the cards on the table, but especially the question of revenues and everyone paying a fair share is what will be required in order to have a sustainable funding situation in Illinois that will ensure that the Chicago public school system stays sustainable for all of our children. Thank you so much, brothers and sisters.
We ran 5 other teachers for aldermen and supported many others. I believe all of those gains in the machine atmosphere of Chicago were very positive and made us stronger, even though we did not win the mayor's race.
And once again, remember, we have tried to provide solutions for them on so many different levels. But the one thing they don't want to hear, the tough choices that people don't want to make, is going where the money is. but constantly frightening us, telling us we're in so much deep trouble. Everybody's leaving Illinois. And if you believe that, I got a bean to sell you. But I will tell you this, sisters and brothers, the sea of red means something. Not just in Chicago, not just nationwide, but worldwide. So thank you for coming out.